Liza was sure that her first date with Adam would go perfectly. After several months of online chatting, they decided to meet at an elegant restaurant overlooking the lake. Liza picked out a stunning dress, did her makeup. A Once they were seated, Adam kept looking around, unsure of what to say or how to sit. Eventually, he tried to ease the tension by ordering a special cocktail, which turned out to be a very strong drink, leaving him even more withdrawn. Liza tried to keep the conversation going, but every time she brought up a topic, Adam began sweating and nervously smiling. After a few awkward silences, Adam confessed that he found it much easier to communicate through messages, and maybe their relationship was better suited for that. The date ended with Liza sitting alone by the lake, reflecting on how sometimes online communication doesn't translate well into real life interaction. Emma's best friend had set her up on a blind date with a guy who was really into sports, or so she was told. Emma was a little curious, but had no clue what she was getting into. When they met at a local cafe, Emma was taken aback. The guy, Mark, was wearing a full basketball jersey, matching shorts and sneakers. Like he was about to step onto a court, not sit down for a coffee. Emma thought, maybe he's just coming from the gym, but soon realized it wasn't the case. This was his date outfit, and he wasn't planning on changing. The awkwardness only grew when Mark started talking nonstop about basketball, but not in the way most people would. He began quoting obscure stats, comparing Emma to random players as if they were about to face off in a 3-on-3 tournament. At one point, he looked at her seriously and said, "You know, your height, build, and energy remind me of a young Shaquille O'Neal. Do you play?" Emma, who had never touched a basketball in her life, could only stare, not sure whether to laugh or cry. She tried to steer the conversation towards something a little less intense, but Mark, oblivious to her discomfort, kept going. Finally, as they were finishing their coffee, Mark excitedly said, "Hey, let's go shoot some hoops. I brought my extra ball and everything." Emma blanked, looked at her own outfit, a sundress and sandals, and then back at Mark, who was grinning like he had just suggested the most romantic thing in the world. She politely but firmly declined, saying, "You know what? I think I'll pass on the hoops today. Maybe we could just finish our coffee without comparing me to LeBron James." Mark, not missing a beat, said, "Hey, I get it. You're just not ready for a real challenge." Emma smiled and texted her friend, um, "Next time, let's go with someone who doesn't think a coffee date is an episode of Sports Center." So, uh, James and Clara had met online, and after a few weeks of texting, they decided to go to a local park for a picnic. Clara arrived with her basket of snacks, but James had something else in mind. He had brought his pet iguana. He proudly placed the reptile in the middle of the picnic blanket as though it were his most prized possession. Clara, trying to keep her composure, nervously asked, "Is the iguana part of the date?" "Of course." To make matters worse, the iguana then decided to take a stroll up Clara's leg, sending her into a full-blown panic. James, not noticing the growing terror in Clara's eyes, continued talking about his pet's impressive diet and hobbies. Clara eventually excused herself from the date, promising James that next time, maybe we'll meet somewhere that doesn't involve reptiles.